morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And greetings. I am Dr. Cheryl Lester George, and I serve as the Director of the MBA graduate programs here in the School of Business Administration. The CAU School of Business has long served as a pioneer in business education for diverse people. We launched the first business college for African Americans in 1883. We became the first minority institution to offer graduate work in business in 1929. In 1946, we established the first HBCU School of Graduate Business Administration. And see, we're celebrating 75 years and we're still strong. And in 1974, we became one of the first HBCUs with an MBA program accredited by AACSB International. Our school has had barrier-breaking women on its faculty and in its administration, and it has educated generations of learners and transformed them into dynamic business leaders. Many of these trailblazing women are Sammy Griffin Dennis and Burnell D. Rivers, the first female business graduates in CAU history. Their legacy and those of many others are why we're here this morning. And as a proud CAU alumni, I can think of no better way to celebrate their achievements than by hosting today's guests, who are all three amazing leaders and successful. And so on behalf of the faculty, students, staff, and alumni, I officially welcome you to the CAU SBA Forward Forum. And now without further delay, I turn it over to one of our outstanding students, Mallory King, who will introduce today's topic and the distinguished guests. Mallory? Hey, good morning. You snuck up on me.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mallory King. I'm a junior business administration major. I have the honor of introducing our panelists today. We have a distinguished guest here at this Forward Forum that is entitled Women in Business Leadership. So first, I want to start off by introducing our panel moderator for this session will be Dr. Lori L. Sadler, Clark Atlanta University's Vice President of Alumni Relations and Engagement. Prior to her current position, Dr. Sadler has served in several key roles in administration and recruitment at CAU. She has also held marketing leadership positions with major companies such as Ralston Purina, the Pepsi-Cola Company, and Nabisco. Dr. Sadler earned a BBA in Hotel Management from Howard University and earned both an MBA with a concentration in marketing and a doctorate in higher education leadership from Clark Atlanta University. Joining Dr. Sadler today are three amazing panelists. Our first is Tia Cummings Hopkins, Senior Vice President of Global Brand Marketing at FinTech Giant Square, which she joined in 2021. Ms. Cummings Hopkins is an award-winning marketer with nearly 15 years of experience across companies like Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Procter & Gamble. Ms. Cummings Hopkins earned her BS in Chemical Engineering from Hanson University and her MBA from the Krannert School of Management at Purdue University. Our next panelist is Cheryl Lester, Vice President of Operations Strategy at Shipt, a subsidiary of Target Inc. Ms. Lester has more than 25 years of experience in retail operations and strategic leadership roles. Before joining Shipt, she worked for several retail brands, including Lowe's Inc., Sam's Club, and Walmart. She has also worked at Cox Enterprises, McKinsey, and a variety of Silicon Valley internet startup companies. Ms. Lester earned her bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of California, Berkeley, and an MBA from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Our final panelist is Melanie Walker, Internal Audit Executive with USAA. Ms. Walker has an extensive background in the financial services industry and is a thought leader in the risk management space. Prior to USAA, she has served in leadership roles at PNC Bank and SunTrust Bank. A certified public accountant, Ms. Walker is a graduate of Clark Atlanta University with a degree in accounting. She has also completed the Graduate School of Bank Investments and Financial Management program at the University of South Carolina and holds a certification in project management. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are our amazing panelists, and this is the Ford Forum, so can we all just give a round of applause for our amazing panelists? And I now introduce, humbly, our moderator for this event, Dr. Sadler. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mallory. Thank you, Mallory. Did Mallory do an awesome job? Let's give it for our student leaders. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I don't know about you all, but I think we were saying up here, we are just so glad to be here in person, right? We are so excited about being here in person and not on a Zoom screen. I think we're all kind of zoomed out, right? As Mallory said, I am Lori Sadler, and I have the pleasure to serve as the Vice President of Alumni Relations and Engagement here at Clark Atlanta University, and I am so honored to sit with such powerful, powerful women. It's almost electrifying up here. I don't know if you all can feel it out there, but it's almost electrifying. I think we've missed some of this connectivity and chemistry in the virtual space, so we're just glad to be here today. And I do have a script that I am going to follow, Dean Udoka. I have a script, and I am going to follow it, but since I have the mic, and you notice I have like the table mic, I got the big mic, I'm just going to take a quick personal point of privilege. I recently read an article, and it was loosely titled, "Black Women, It's Okay to Let Go of Your Cape." And it was the article, I mean, just as electrifying as the title, but in so many instances, black women are branded or labeled by others, and sometimes even labeled by ourselves, right? Almost self-inflicted. And we feel like we have to live up to this superwoman image. So for the few minutes that we have together, how about we give ourselves permission to take our capes off and just relax. Take our capes off and relax. And I know it's like relax, like that's almost like a foreign word to these women up here, I'm sure. It's like relax, what is that? But if we could, just for a few moments, relax and just have a conversation. Is that all right? Yes. Awesome, awesome. We'll take our capes off and be transparent. And since we're talking, just a quick kind of news flash, and even though this is Women's History Month, and they've given us a month, and it's actually a pretty long month, and see I got my splash of purple, there's a quick news flash that men still run the world. But hopefully, after this conversation and others, that will begin to change. And I think we need like a hand clap on that. We're about changing some things. We're about moving things forward, and this conversation is designed to do exactly that. But today we have gathered at the historic Clark Atlanta University, and Dr. Jester George did an excellent job providing the history of this illustrious institution. So I won't go through that. I'll just say yeah to what she said. But in other words, we produce leaders. And we have an audience that includes some of our current and future leaders. And as we zoom in on Women's History Month, we are focused on telling her story. So let's talk about the impact that women have had in business. So just as we get started, just to kind of loosen up, I'd like for you to tell us about your career and your company. And then as part of that, if you could let us know, if you can identify one or at least one woman who has helped to guide you along the way. And so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. You know, this is not formal. We're going to be real comfortable here. This is not formal. So we got the President's Cabinet, which is like kind of very formal. And then you have an Executive Cabinet, which is also formal. we're more like the kitchen cabinet, okay? We're more like the kitchen cabinet. We just want to be comfortable here. So whoever wants to jump right in.
I'll go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had a very interesting career journey is what I love to tell people. It was not very linear. If you heard in my bio, my undergraduate degree from Hampton is in chemical engineering. And then I spent the last 15 years working in business and marketing. And so for me, it was about having great opportunities via internships to kind of figure out, you know what, maybe I don't want a career in research and development, and I want to make a pivot into marketing. And that's why I went to business school, so I could get a business degree to make that pivot. And then I've been very fortunate to work at some really amazing companies, you know, Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, L'Oreal. And I've always been very intentional about the moves that I've made to ensure that I was getting a variety of skills to set me up for my ultimate goal, which is to be a chief marketing officer, right? And so that's my next move within the next couple of years. And so what I love to tell people is you kind of have to plan your journey. You know, there will be things and bumps along the way. You'll zig, you'll zag. I've gone up, I've gone back down, you know, and I've worked my way, you know, up. And so I just tell people, like, it's a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But it really can be a great journey if you take the time to think about where you want to go and what are the steps that you have to take to get there, right? And I've had the benefit of mentors throughout my career, some men, some women. But it's funny, I'm in my current role today because of a mentor who was a woman I worked with years ago at Kellogg's. And she is also a woman of color. She's Indian. But we worked at Kellogg's together as peers. She left and went to Google for 6 years. She spent a long career in consumer products marketing just like me, and she's like, I'm going to go to tech and do something different. So she was a manager at Kellogg's. She goes to Google for 6 years, and then she becomes the chief marketing officer of Kimberly-Clark, one of the largest companies in the world. Manager to CMO in 6 years as a woman of color. And I reached out to her and we had some conversations. I was like, you have got to teach me because I'm trying to do what you did. And she was very transparent. She's like, Tia, we have all these years of experience in our current field. And she's like, by going to tech, I got something different. And it set me apart from all of these other candidates for these roles. She's like, so if you ever get the opportunity to work in tech, and I know you love consumer. She's like, you can come back to consumer. Look, I did. She's like, but if you ever get the opportunity, I highly recommend it. And that stuck with me. And literally 3 months later, a tech company, Square, was sending me a message on LinkedIn, we'd love to talk to you about an opportunity. And I said, well, look at this. I wasn't even looking for a job at the time, right? But they reached out, and I'd had that conversation with this woman, and I was like, I need to talk to them, right? I'm not looking for a job. I don't really want to leave my current job, but if I want to get to where I'm going, she said I need to consider tech, so let me at least go through this process. And I ended up getting the job, right? And so it's awesome working in tech. It's very different from what I'm used to. But it's fun working in an industry that is still young and growing, where you can really leave your mark and really help build something. And especially a company like Square, which is all about economic empowerment, especially for underrepresented and marginalized communities. So what I get to do every day is help people who look like us start businesses, grow their businesses, and this is only helping me reach my goal. So my takeaway is to be intentional with your journey, seek out those who can give you guidance and sort of help you, get to where you want to go.
Awesome, thank you. Melanie?
I'll jump in next, Melanie Walker, and I'm currently an internal audit executive with Usaa. And your story about being intentional, I love that. I definitely think that that's something that you should keep in the back of your mind and you should drive toward. But I have had points in my career where I wasn't very intentional, and so my objective is to be very transparent with you all, because sometimes you may get off the path. I started out after graduating from Clark Atlanta, became a CPA, went into public accounting, did that for about 4 years, thought I wanted to be a partner, knew I was going to be a partner, walked in the door telling the managing partner I was going to be a partner, and he was like, oh, young lady, like, I'm thinking, why not? You can do it, I can do it. Did it for a few years and realized, yeah, no, this is not what I want to do. So I ended up moving to one of my largest clients, which was SunTrust Bank, And it was a good fit. I spent the majority of the time in internal audit and moved out into the EPMO space, the project management office. When I was in internal audit, was married, had young kids, and lost my way a bit. In one aspect, I was intentional about that role because it afforded me the ability to be hands-on, to be the room mom, to still have a fulfilling career, but lost my way a bit. Stayed 10 years was way too long to stay in that role, and I looked up and I felt stuck. And this is where having the mentors and the sponsors do come into play. And speaking with the mentor, I was like, I need to do something different, and just didn't know what that was. She saw the connection between my skills and how they would be transferable to the project management world. And so in moving into that world, that was a new toolbox. It was scary because internal audit project management, very different than the PMP project management space, but I learned a lot. I added a lot to my toolbox. I was able to bring my financial knowledge to that role because they had a project accounting function that they just were not managing correctly. But I say all that to say, you may get lost in your career. You may get off track sometimes in your career, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. It happens to a lot of people, but make sure that you stay plugged in. Make sure that you continue to network. And again, that's one thing I did not do in those 10 years in internal audit. I got very comfortable. So when it was time to network, there were the people that I had these amazing connections with from public accounting who are now CFOs and, running companies. I hadn't spoken to them in 5 years, 6 years. How do you start that conversation? So be very intentional about at least continuing, to interact with your network. But if you get off track, it's okay. Work with that mentor, the person who saw the connection to where my next step could be, which was a launching pad into what ended up being my next step and passion, which is operational risk management. And so I didn't see that coming, wasn't sure how I was going to get out of that rut, but with the help of others, I did get there. Now I am very much more intentional about my career, but just want to leave that tidbit with you all that your career and the best laid plans don't always turn out the way you expect them to, but what is our motto? Find a way or make one. You will continue to use that throughout your career, throughout your life. It is not just a motto on campus. It will come back, and if you use that appropriately, it will help you get through some difficult situations.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Lester, and very much like Tia, I'd like to say that my career has taken lots of twists and turns. It has not been in a straight line. The way I like to describe it is that I've put together 3 basic business building blocks through my career path. And I am hoping that it positions me for the C-suite as well. My first building block was accounting and finance. And I also started out life as a CPA at a big accounting firm and decided that I didn't want to be a partner. But I do like to describe it as so fundamental to everything I need to know about business. I like to say they taught me everything that you do need to know. How do you read financial statements? And how do you understand what the business model is behind the numbers? And how do you manage and hire people and performance direct them, if you will? They taught me how to use a computer. I mean, it was literally every foundational thing that I needed to know. But when I decided that I wanted to leave finance and accounting, I also went back to business school. I say to erase the CPA off my forehead. And intentionally did make a pivot into marketing. And so the second building block of my career was all aspects of marketing, branding, PR, social media, building products from scratch. And during that time, I did internet startups, and I did big companies. It was varied. But what I learned during that phase of my career was, how do you build products and services? Sorry, I turned this off. How do you build products and services that people want to buy? And how do you then put together the right programs to let those people know that your product is available? And then how do you do it profitably? Again, another very crucial skill in a business career, understanding that, because sometimes you're selling externally, but sometimes you're selling internally as well. And I use those skills of marketing in my day-to-day career management too. The third building block of my career has been in operations, and I did take a pivot into retail because I wanted to have P&L experience. I wanted to prove that I could run a business, and that's when I joined Walmart, and I ran stores for Walmart. So, they don't have very many MBAs on that career path, but what it did for me was it allowed me to prove that I could figure out how should my stores be merchandised for the consumers where, we were positioned. And how do I make sure I control costs? And how do I deal with phenomenally crazy challenges that happen when you are involved in Walmart stores? I tell a story to my family and friends that everything that happens in the real world and in the tabloids, it happens at a Walmart store. Babies are born, people get into fights, it's crazy stuff. But through that, I was able to demonstrate that I am strategic and I can execute and I can lead large groups of people. At one point, I had 25,000 employees in those stores. And again, I also could prove that I knew how to compete with others who are more skilled than me in operations. Big, big pivot for me. Now, during that particular phase of my career, I did have a very important mentor for me, and she actually hired me into Walmart. Her name is Roz Brewer, and for us that live here in Atlanta, that name should resonate. She's a proud Spelman grad and trustee, and amazing, amazing individual whose career has skyrocketed since her days at Walmart. And so what I'd like to share with you all about Roz is she is one of those kinds of people who goes into a setting and is very intentional about our community and what she wants to see happen. And as I interacted with her and observed her work her magic, and seeing her since in the other organizations that she has joined, including Starbucks, and now she's the CEO of Walgreens internationally. What she does is she really embraces diversity and inclusion. She doesn't just talk it, she walks the walk. And she looks for talent, she promotes talent, she coaches and guides the talent that she's helped along the way, or even chosen and hired along the way. And so she's my role model, not just because of her business acumen, but because of the example that she sets in proving to her colleagues and others that there is black talent out there and that she can find it and she can teach them how to find it. And then she can help us, once we're there, successfully navigate the corporate waters and get promotions from those experiences and position people like us, women like us, to be leaders in their own right. And so I also incorporate those lessons into my own career and the way that I try to also find good talent and help them move along and reach their career aspirations as well.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for that. So some common threads that I just picked up, kind of making moves, but not just moves, the right moves, right? And being intentional about those moves, really my key takeaways. Well, we have so many titles and hats that we wear as women, right? We have titles at work. We just heard you all's amazing titles, big titles, but then we've got titles at home, wife, mother, sister, friend, caregiver, and for some of us who are refining or reinventing ourselves, some of us even have the title of student. The list goes on and on. How do you balance all of this? And do you believe we can have it all?
I think I have an interesting perspective on this because I just got married 6 months ago. Okay, I'm at 40. I'm about to be 41 in a few weeks. So I got married much later in life. I was always very ambitious and career focused, and I knew what I wanted to do. And yes, I knew eventually I wanted to get married and have a family, but it was, oh, that can wait. And so I'm just now starting to wrestle with this, right? I've been married 6 months and trying to balance my workaholic nature with, oh, I've got to unplug. I've got to spend time with my husband. And oh, we're trying to, buy this house. And okay, now we're moving into this house. And oh, we want to have a family. And I'm just now realizing this is hard. It was way easier when it was just me and I could do what I wanted to do and focus, my time was all my own. And so I don't have a solid answer because, like I said, I'm very new to this. I don't have children yet. But in terms of having it all, I think it's about, you may be able to have it all, but not necessarily at the same time. And this is what I'm trying to figure out, right? Like, I almost feel fortunate that I've made it to this level of my career already before the marriage came and before the kids came, because I think it hopefully will be a little bit easier. I have so many friends I know who have taken a step back in their careers when they stopped to have children and are now trying to navigate, well, how do I catch up? And it's an unfortunate reality for a lot of women trying to balance, well, I do want to be a wife and a mother, but I'm super, career driven. There's a woman who, at my team, who I just have to share this example because she's an example of trying to have it all. She, an amazing opportunity presented itself for her to move to Australia to lead the marketing team there for 6 months. She has a husband. She has a very young child. Very young, under 3. And the opportunity required her to leave without taking her family with her. And so we're like, well, are you going to do it? And she's like, yes. She's like, this is my dream. My husband understands. My daughter won't understand right now, but in the future, I want to be able to tell her I did not set aside my dreams, just because of her. They will be okay for those few months, they'll come visit. And I was like, that's amazing, right? Because I find so often that as women, we can lose ourselves in our husbands or our children or things like that, and we lose our identity. And I'm hopeful I can be like her. And she's several years younger than me, but she already has kids. I was like, I hope I'm like you when I have kids, right? That I've managed to sort of maintain my passions myself. So my answer, I don't know if you can have it all and have it all at the same time.
Right. But we try. We keep trying. Melanie, it looks like you were going to jump in.
I agree. I don't know if it's possible to have it all. I think that's a fallacy. I think it's possible to have a little bit of each of the things that are important to you, but you have to find a balance. And I have a little bit of a different journey because I married my college sweetheart right after we left Clark, had my son who's in college and probably around the same age as you all are now. And so my journey, as he grew, I grew in my career. But one thing that I've learned is you have to have boundaries. You have to set clear boundaries around what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And that is related to your work life and making sure that you have a work-life balance and making sure that you still have a career that's fulfilling to you, but that you're still making sure you're taking care of your family at home. And then I find that self-care is very important. I can't fill anyone if I'm empty. And so every weekend I'm doing something, if it's a facial or a massage or something for me, because as women we tend to put our families, our children, our jobs before us, and then we're on the back burner and we're burned out. And that burnout will affect you in some way, shape, or form. So the major takeaway I have for you all is to really be intentional about setting boundaries and realizing maybe you can have it all. I'm not saying that you can't. If you find the formula, write that book. You'll be a millionaire. But go into it being very realistic and just really trying to figure out what's important to you and then figuring out what that right balance is for you, because it's different for each individual.
Wow, thank you. Cheryl, you gonna?
All of those were extremely good points, and the only thing that I would add for your consideration is recognize exactly where you are in your life or career journey and adjust accordingly. Adjust your expectations and adjust what balance means. You know, sometimes you're in a new situation. Maybe you just started your job or your career, and that requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of work to make your mark and make those good first impressions and build relationships. So, you know, maybe some of your friendships suffer during that period of time because you're something you're focused on. And in other points, you're stable. In there, you can elevate other relationships or outside pursuits and opportunities. I'm currently in a situation where I'm in a brand new job. I'm 9 months in and I just got a new boss. Well, that requires a whole lot of time, right? Or during the pandemic, my mom came to live with us from California, and I'm a caregiver now in addition to a mother and a wife. And I recognize there are a lot of things I couldn't do that maybe I like to do. But if you recognize where you are, you don't become resentful about it. You just say, okay, this is a phase, it's a period of time. This too shall pass, and you give yourself grace, and you manage through it. You are thoughtful about how you allocate your energy, and when it's time for you to put other things in front, do it without guilt. Don't waste too much time on feeling guilty about your decisions.
Awesome, thank you. Balance and boundaries. The nuggets that I picked up. Hopefully our students are able to take notes and are picking up this rich conversation. Make sure you walk away with something. I know I am. I'm taking copious notes here. So let's talk about the S word. In this age of social media, we live and die by our image or how many likes we get. How many marketing majors, we got some business students walking in now. I just need some, if we're in business school, how many marketing majors do we have? Just raise your hand, just want to see you. All right, we got marketing majors in the house. Okay, so almost bigger than marketing majors these days are influencers, right? So how many influencers do we have in the audience? Folks raising their hands. When I say influencers, I mean like 100,000 plus followers on the social media platform. Influencers, right? That's where we are now, right? So branding ourselves or managing our brand is something that we all have to do. So let's talk about how you managed your brand and the importance of it. And Cheryl, we'll start with you.
Well, I guess I'm a little ambivalent about externally branding myself in my career. There's a lot of advice out there that says if you have a certain skill set or stature in your industry, you should be posting all the time. You should be talking about topics related to your job, et cetera, et cetera. That has not been my focus. But when it comes to internal branding, I will have to share with you all that that is extremely important and is something that you should be very cognizant of, intentional about, and garden with care. Really, your reputation is everything in the corporate world, if that's the path you decide upon. And being sure that people know what you do well, what you stand for, how you glide throughout the business and in your job is very important. Building relationships and nurturing those relationships so that when you need somebody to help you or you need them to do something on your project or support you is important. Finding talent within your organization is very important. Your reputation contributes to if you can recruit people or don't. And then last but not least, finding mentors and finding sponsors is driven by your internal reputation as well. So in that case, I do spend time being conscious of it, and I look at my calendar and say, well, when's the last time I touched base with this executive or this peer? And I am trying to be ever intentional about spending my time in a way that contributes and grows my reputation as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Branding is super important, and I think that your generation does a really good job of it. You talked about social media, and I think you naturally kind of brand yourself. So going into the corporate world, if that's where you do decide to go, a couple things. Branding externally, being a student, not being in corporate, totally different. When you get into the corporate world, people will tell you to bring your full self to work. Be careful. We're not there yet, 100%, with bringing your full self to work. And what you put out on social media is out there for everyone to see. And you can lose jobs because of your personal information and your personal activities that you feel are on your personal time, and why should that matter? It does. There are some companies that maybe it doesn't matter as much, but I would definitely caution you to be very careful about what you're putting out on social media, or if you've, kind of got your separate kind of brand under a different name or something like that, make sure you're being careful and intentional about that as you move into the corporate world. Also, a part of branding that I think is really, really important is advocating for yourself. And so you know what you're doing on a daily basis, you know what your accomplishments are, you're keeping a list, a tally of how well you're doing. Don't expect others to do that, right? So you have your manager, you guys are checking in, you're talking about what's happening, how well you're doing, how you're executing, and you expect that that person is really kind of seeing how things are stacking up. They may or may not. An example that I'll give, and this personally happened to me, I was moving from a senior manager into more of a higher level executive role, and I was just blowing things out the water. Everything that was given to me, I was doing really well. I was known in the department as kind of like that go-to person. If it's a challenge, give it to her, she'll knock it out. I expected that I would get the promotion. Went to my boss afterwards, did not get promoted. Went to my boss afterwards, and I had this laundry list of all the things that I've done and all the accomplishments, that I've made. And he sat back in his chair and said, you know what, you're right. You should have been promoted. That was a huge lesson for me. I should have been branding and advocating for myself all along. Don't expect anyone else to keep a list or a tally or understand what you've done. Have those intentional check-in meetings with your boss, your boss's boss. That's called a skip level meeting. Have meetings with them, check in. Make sure you're advocating for yourself and telling your own story. That is you building your brand, so that when the time comes and you should be getting that promotion, you don't have to come after, learn my lesson, after the fact, and have someone say, you're right, you should have been promoted. So, branding, 100% important.
So Melanie, you got promoted, or?
I did.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure we heard that whole story.
6 months later, I got promoted, but that was a huge, hard, learned lesson for me.
Yeah.
That is so real, especially for us, okay? And us meaning Black people, because if you do not advocate for yourself, you cannot assume you put your head down and people will promote. I've had that same situation happen to me, and I'm like, they promoting everybody but me. I'm the only Black person, but I'm also a star performer. What's going on? And they're like, oh, you want to be promoted? We didn't know. You think I just want to sit here I'm just working this hard for nothing? But I digress. Branding is something that I talk about a lot. As a brand marketer, it's what I do.
Yes.
And I love talking about this topic. And I love saying, I'm so glad social media didn't exist when I was in college, when I was in grad school, so none of my foolishness is documented. And I just love to tell people, you be careful what you, like, privacy settings exist for a reason. People have Finstas for a reason, okay? So you can protect yourself. I have the public stuff, and then I have the private stuff. So when I still want to be foolish, only certain people can see it. That's real. But in terms of like having that internal and that external brand, I do agree. I try to make sure mine's consistent. And why external branding is so important is that's how opportunities find you, right? My last few executive level roles, I wasn't looking for a job. They called me. Hey, we need you, right? We see you out here. We see what you're saying. You're posting on LinkedIn. I'm on the speaker circuit. I do a lot of talks. Man, we need someone like you. Wow. And that's intentional, right? I built that over time to show that I'm an expert in this space and I know what I'm doing and I'm known as capable and I have a track record of success. And so it's important to have that list of accomplishments. Write them down, right? I keep mine written down too, so because I learned my lesson, so I can always go back. You see all these things I did? And that's important to document. And it is important to constantly think about how you're using things like LinkedIn. I had a session with members of my team because I'm always trying to coach even the people who work for me. My assumption is you're not trying to stay here forever. And you want to move up, and that could be moving out, and I want to help you get to that next level. Mm-hmm. So here's how you should be using LinkedIn. Here's how you should be updating your profile. Here's how you should be posting, and the cadence you should be posting content, so that, like people calling me, they're calling you for jobs too. And that's okay, right? So not a lot of leaders believe that. They believe in, well, I'm just trying to keep you, and no, I'm trying to help you soar, whether that's with me or elsewhere.
Yeah,
so just, again, I use the word intentional a lot, but that is, as someone who has always been highly ambitious and who mapped out her life since the age of 12, it is written down. That's how I've been able to accomplish a lot of the things that I did. Is I'm thoughtful about my networking. I'm thoughtful about the content and the articles I post and where I show up to speak. And you can do that now, guys. You can be posting on LinkedIn. You can be sharing articles and sharing your point of view. You know, you could sign up for public speaking things. Like, these are the skills that will help you. And then your word is your bond, right? So building that track record of success, of being reliable, of when I say I'm going to do this, I do it, and I do it well. All of those are things that help you build your brand over time that you can then point back to later.
Wow, awesome. 12 years old, Tia.
I still have it too.
I'm trying to think about what I was doing when I was 12, like probably combing my doll's hair or something like that. I don't know, running around the backyard. But that's great. I'm just happy to be sitting here on the stage with you. So I think maybe it worked out okay for me too. But Tia, we'll just stay with you. We know a major challenge for women is pay equity and continuing to push for more transparency in salaries as it relates to women. What are your thoughts around advocating on this issue?
Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, we know women make less than men. I think for white women, it's like 85 cents on the dollar. For black women, it's like 63 cents on the dollar, which is a problem. And why that often happens is a lot of things, right? We just talked about, women and being moms and wives and mothers, and sometimes them having to slow down or take a step back can limit their earning potential. But the other thing that I think is even more important is we just don't ask for it as much as men do. For some reason, we get a little nervous and gun shy and it's like, well, I'm just gonna take what they gave me and I'm excited for this job, so I don't wanna ask for more money. That is the absolute wrong thing to do. We will never get pay equity unless we demand it. Mm-hmm. And so what I love to tell people is when you get a job offer and you're excited, negotiate. Negotiate, ask for more money, do your research. See what the average is, see what the midpoint is, see what the high point is, and sort of calculate where you think you should be, and ask for it. I tell people, like, why not? Like, the worst they can say is no. 9 times out of 10, they don't say no, right? They're gonna go back and see what else they can do. So we just have to get over this innate fear that we as women have against asking for more money. And I'm so grateful, my father taught me this. He was like, he's the master negotiator. He's like, ask for more money. Always ask for more money. Ask for this, ask for this. And so that's what we have to get comfortable doing, right? Because they're not going to come to you with their best offer because they're going to try to get you for the cheapest possible. So go back and ask for more. The other thing that I think we need to break this habit of not wanting to talk about salaries and not wanting to talk about money. Do you realize that when you keep it a secret, all that does is benefit the company? Because then they can pay you less than they're paying this person. Wow. I believe in talking about, like, how much you getting? Really? Okay, this is how we work together to help ourselves get more money, is you talk about it and then because they love to keep this secret, and I don't know where this started from, it only benefits the company. It does not benefit us. So demand more money, know your worth, ask for it, and feel free to talk to other people that you try about, hey, I'm getting this, especially your peers if you're in the same role, so that the company can't play those games.
Wow, Cheryl.
So I was exactly going to make that point. The reason that women typically don't get paid as much as men is because we don't know what the value of the job is. And particularly as you go higher and higher up in your company, there are fewer and fewer resources or objective third parties that are going to post what the range is, the salary range is. This is where your network and your relationships come into play. If you have peers in similar roles at other companies, they can tell you. You should always maintain relationships with people who work in human resources, in your company, outside your company, because they will tell you or hint, give you the information that you need so you can negotiate fairly. Because what companies tend to do is they say, well, what do you make now? What do you make now? And this job might be a huge step up for you. The responsibilities are the same, regardless of what you make in your current job or not. But they will calibrate based on what you tell them your current salary is. So if they were willing to pay up here, you tell them right now, I'm making here, they bring down the range. You have no idea. But if you don't have any background information of what the job is worth, you can't know that they've done that, and you don't know what they would have paid you if they hadn't have asked you that question, right? So that's another thing in your negotiations. Try to never tell them or to be the first to tell them what you make. So they can't do that. And then make sure you can tap into a broad network of relationships who might be able to give you what is fair for that particular position.
Piggyback a little bit off of what both ladies said, absolutely never give your current salary. It's not their business. And in some states, it's illegal for them to ask you that. So when someone asks you for your salary, I politely decline to share that information. I'm more interested in the current role, understanding the role, and oh, well, what do you want for this role? Well, once I have all the facts, I'll be looking for something that's commensurate with the responsibilities. The dollar amount should come after you have information on what it is they're asking you to do. So do not undersell yourself. Definitely do not undersell yourself. And also to your point, both of your points about using your network, it has been taboo. Asking about salary is hard to find. I've been in that position before where someone's offering you something and you're like, I don't know what I'm worth or what this role is worth. You have to know your worth. And so we've got to break down those barriers of being uncomfortable talking about salary. Get people in your network that you can start having those comfortable conversations with. And another thing that I think is really important, and we'll probably get into networking and mentoring and things like that in a bit, is I know that it's easy for us to walk in the room and gravitate towards those who look like us. And that's very important. You should have mentors and sponsors who look like you, absolutely. But you have to get outside of your comfort zone and talk to people who do not look like you, especially white males, because they have the voice, because they have a lot of knowledge, and they can get information that you may not be able to get to. And they will share because they don't care. They don't see a reason to not tell you how much they make. They're proud. I make X amount, and they also will advocate for you, especially if you have a good brand, if you're a good worker, and they realize that you make less. They'll go to your boss. Why is she making less than me? And we'll just do things that you would never in a million years do. But get those kinds of people in your network who will advocate for you as well.
Wow, thank you for that. Melanie, let's kind of stay right where you are in terms of a topic. Mentorship and sponsorship are critical, right, for supporting gender equity. And I think that's the direction that you are going. What should we expect from women leaders to support other women in their organization? I heard you mention men, but what should we expect from other women leaders in the organization in terms of support?
So I don't know that I can answer what you should expect, because you may or may not get what your expectations are. I think that you have to, again, the word be intentional about seeking out mentors and seeking out sponsors. And there's a difference between the two. The mentor advises you. They help advise you on your career. They'll help you build your career plan. That's kind of your go-to person to bounce ideas off of and figure out where I want to go and what I want to do. A sponsor is an advocate. The sponsor is the person that's going to advocate for you, you want someone who's at a senior level, who are at the tables where you're not there, who's going to bring your name up when opportunities are discussed behind closed doors. So you need to make sure that you have both in your network. But you have to go out and seek, right? You can't expect, just because you're a woman, other women are going to come and take you under their wing and get you where you need to go. You have to go out and seek out those people in your network. I think of networking a little bit differently. I'm a bit of an introvert. I'll just throw that out there. So networking, especially when I was new, into my career, was just, I would shut down. Like, what do I say? How do I approach this person? You know what I mean? Like, I started thinking about networking more. It's more about what can I do for that person versus what they can do for me. It makes it harder when you want to meet someone and you're like, I need something from you. If you approach networking just, I'm trying to get to know you. I want to get to know who you are, your background, what you do, and then think about what you can do for them. Oh, I saw an article that I know that you'd be interested in because of your background, or I heard about a lecture that's happening and I'm going to go ahead and email that to her so that, that's something that she might be interested in. Form those natural connections with people so that they will start to reciprocate with you. Oh, I know this young lady is interested in XYZ. I saw something that would be a great opportunity for that person. And then when you do actually need something, it won't be so uncomfortable to, approach that person and ask for their help. So, to your question, what should you expect? Expect that you're going to have to work for it.
There we go. There it is. Would you want to, I'm sorry.
I just love to say, yep, that part. You do need to work for it. And I always tell people, mentors, they can be inside or outside your organization, right? The sponsors are going to be inside because those are the ones who are in those rooms you're not in, pushing on your behalf. But mentors can be anywhere. I get so many messages on LinkedIn from young people like, hey, can I get some advice from you? Can I just chat with you for, and I love that. It's like, yes, my job, and going back to what you said about what should you expect, you should definitely not expect nothing. What would be nice, is if all women felt like, let me help bring some more behind me, right? Yes. So that, I'm not the only one. And in many cases, we are the only one who look like us, right? So I'm not the only person in the room. How do I help bring up more to really change the makeup of this room? That's something I think about a lot because I have so often been the only. And in my current role, in tech, there's just not many black senior executives in tech. You can probably count them on your hands. So I know I'm in a really rare position and I'm in the place where I need to think about how can I bring so many more people up here with me. And that's what would be nice is if everyone, every woman, every person of color thought that way. We don't. That's why the phrase, all skin folk ain't kin folk exists. But, it would be nice. And so I try to at least do my part to change that.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Cheryl, we're coming to you. The racial justice movement brought to the forefront some of the systemic barriers that have also plagued the workplace. In your experience or in your opinion, how can companies be more mindful of the hurdles that women of color face, which are often different from our colleagues?
I think that a lot of what has happened in society has helped drive interest and commitments in some cases in companies to look at their internal makeups of their workplace and start to ask some very, very critical questions. That is a great step one. I'm very pleased that companies that I have been involved in have taken many, many steps to question where are they on their diversity, equity, and inclusion journeys and make some changes, some commitments, put some money where their mouths are, et cetera, et cetera. Step two, though, is to do the work. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we start to see things fall apart. They make the commitments, and then they don't follow through. They say they want diversity, but then they won't hold their senior level leaders accountable. to achieving that. And what is important in many companies is what they measure. What doesn't get measured doesn't get done. So that part I've been quite disappointed in. From afar, the companies that I've worked at before, my current company actually is doing a decent job, I'd say. We just published a diversity and inclusion report for the company. I think we achieved something like 48% females in leadership positions at the company, and our workforce is about 40% diverse. Decent, you know? And I see them living some of their commitments, so that makes me proud. But when I think in general about companies in the United States and where they are, it's difficult. And that's where when we're in these companies, it is unfortunately incumbent on us to be visible, to point things out, to really start to hold our leaders accountable to do more. And I think when you're black, when you're female, when you're other in whatever fashion, you should take on some of those responsibilities because you're leaders. And leaders don't let their companies or their communities or their organizations be ordinary.
Awesome. Anybody want to add to that? Will you turn your mic?
I think the other thing I would add to that is, like you mentioned, step into that role as a leader, because if you don't do it, who else will do it? But for you, as new folks coming into the business world, don't wait for someone else to do it. You have power, you have a voice. Don't think that you have to be an executive or a senior VP or something of that nature. You can create an employee advocacy group. You can start a ground roots movement for, things that you see aren't being done properly. Get someone, a senior leader or an executive to sponsor you so that you can have someone who's plugged in at a higher level. But you have a voice, you can make a change. You do so on the campus every day. Carry that into your work life as well.
It's a great, you can do it, I love that, that's what I would have said. You can do it as an intern, guys. I did it as an intern. I didn't like what I was seeing at a company, a very, very big food company that you all know, I won't put their name out there. This was a long time ago, and I saw some things that didn't sit right. I was like, I'm just gonna send an email to the CEO. What they gonna do? And say, I don't like this. I think there needs to be some diversity inclusion training offered to the interns. This is 20 years ago. Okay. Do you know I got a response? And do you know that they actually instituted that diversity and inclusion training across the company? And I was an intern. Wow. So you don't have to be at a senior level to be able to make an impact. You just have to be willing to speak up.
Awesome, thank you. Well, under the leadership of our fifth president, Dr. George T. French Jr., since his arrival, our ongoing theme has been accelerating our momentum. And for the last 3 years, and you might agree, the momentum of CAU has truly, truly accelerated. And clearly, you all have done that in your careers. What has been pivotal or a critical element in accelerating your own momentum?
I'll jump in and as I told this story before of how I stayed in a role too long or felt like I got stuck, you have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, for lack of a better term. And we've talked about mentors and networking and things of that nature. I had to put myself out there, which was a bit scary because I had been in that role for so long and I was used to it and it was my comfort zone. Putting your name out there, I worried about what other people would think, what my boss would think, would they try to sabotage me moving to doing something else? That's where your network definitely comes into play, and they can give you information on opportunities that aren't posted. Everything you see, whatever you see out on LinkedIn or on these job boards is probably 30% of what's actually out there. So much happens behind the scenes. I think, Tia, you mentioned that, LinkedIn is a great platform, And my last 2 roles, they saw my information on LinkedIn, similar to you, but I haven't posted for a role and I can't remember how long. So making sure that you are utilizing your network, and like I said, you may fall off, you may get into a rut, but you can pull yourself out of that. I got out of that position, went to a role that I didn't even see how it connected, but my mentor did that for a few years, and it leapfrogged me into being an operational risk executive and now an internal audit executive. And so if you're in a place where you feel like you may be stuck, you don't have to stay there. You can get out of that position. You can accelerate your own career, but don't sit and wait for someone to do it for you. You have to take the lead on your own career.
I think for me, what was required was to set goals and to envision what sort of either role or title that I wanted. And when it's been clearest to me where I'm trying to go, it makes it much easier to make decisions about what do I need to learn, what steps do I need to take, meaning additional positions or opportunities, what companies I need to be in to gain the exposure and the credibility to hit those marks. And so the thing about setting goals is when you achieve them, you obviously feel really, really good, but it's also not permanent. I think we both have examples where we achieved a goal, we pursued a career, got there and said, oh, well, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. And then you set the next one. You're continuously learning. You're never going to lose out by gaining knowledge and skills and experience. So set bold goals for yourself, work to achieve them, and if you do, set a new one. If you don't quite get there, assess where you want to go next.
We agree with that one, because that to me aligns with being intentional. The only other 2 I'll add are take risk, because I would say I've taken a lot of risk in my career. And always with the mindset that I'm going to go try this thing. I think it's going to grow me and develop me, but if it doesn't work out, I'll get something else, right? So be comfortable with taking risk. And then for me, what has really accelerated my career is what I said, putting myself out there, really building my brand. That's how all these roles are finding me. And, I went from a director to a VP to a senior vice president of a Fortune 500 company in 4 years. Wow. Because I was putting myself out there. Right, and willing to take those career risks that put me in line of sight to be identified for these opportunities. So people, they talk about like, oh, I get comfortable. You say it's very easy to get comfortable in a job. If you like it, if you like the people, you like the work, don't let yourself get too comfortable, right? Be willing to take a jump at the risk of trying something new because you think it'll grow you.
Awesome. Well, Ms. Cole, before we turn it over to Q&A, because I know our students probably have some brilliant and burning questions for our panelists, we started the conversation recognizing that you are all super women. And I'd like to lead this part of the conversation asking you to reach under your chairs. There's a bag under your chairs, and there's one under mine too, so get up.
And as the panelists are getting their bags, if you do have a question, I'm going to have you line up on this side.
And if you would open the bag, please. Okay, so if you look in the bag, each of you have the red cape, right? Because you are super women. Now, I'm not going to ask you to put it on. I'm not. But just please take it out. You put it. Right. So I can't. My daughter made me promise that I wouldn't put it on. She's like, Mom, if I see you in a picture with a red cape, you are so done. So I won't do it, but I'll hold it up. Wow. But so, I mean, you all are super women. Say it again. Super women. Super women. So just Wonder Woman kind of held her power in her golden lasso and her headband, and Storm from the X-Men could fly and control the weather, right? And the Black Panther, a male, I know, Black Panther knew the power of a woman, right? Because he had an all-female security detail, so he even knew the power of a woman. My last question, and this is real quick because I know we've got our students lined up, but in that vein, my last question is, what is your superpower? Just real quick, your superpower.
My superpower is bringing people together, aligning them around a vision, and then being able to execute. Right? Like I'm really good. This is what's made me successful, even in places where I don't know as well what I'm doing. I know how to get the smart people, the right people to work together towards that common goal. Whether we call it motivation, inspiration, but really just getting people hyped to do something great.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would say my superpower is in managing people. Not to pat myself on the back, but I am an excellent manager. I've had people come into my organization who are deemed the problem children, and I am able to have direct conversations with them. Let's talk about what the challenges are. Let's make a plan. And one person who was a problem child just recently got promoted to my role in the last company that I left. And so I have so many success stories and get a lot of really great feedback from people on my management style. So I appreciate that.
Awesome.
I would say my superpower is being able to see what's next and see around corners. So how that's played out in my career is I've made choices to be at companies that are leading or innovating or are conquering what's new in the industry. And the way that also plays out is that I'm able to articulate a vision about here's where this space is going. Like right now I'm in last mile delivery, shipped hires gig workers to deliver groceries and packages. And it's a continuation of my retail journey because I understood this is where we're going. Omnichannel is important in retail, and for me to learn these skills is important. But also I can recruit people and build my teams because I can articulate, well, how does this fit into the evolution of retail, as another example. When I was in Silicon Valley, I was in a company that provided the first mapping solutions. You know, the GPS stuff that got me here today. I was involved in that industry at the dawn of the internet, right? So I would call that my superpower, and that helps me make calculated risks in my own career and bring others along with me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank
Ms.
you
Cole,
so
I'll
much.
turn it over to you. We'll hold on to our capes, though, if that's okay.
Please do.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Rashida Mohammed. I am a second-year MBA candidate. And I just want to admit that this is a full circle moment for me because 2 years ago, when I decided to pursue an MBA, I had a list of resources and things that I would take advantage of. So one of those things was a the Trill MBA show. And I know, I listened to that episode with you, Tia, on Black Senior Leaders Dilemma, and how to manage your career to get into the C-suite. And that, I hold that near and dear because graduating, I have an offer at Bank of America, and I've listened, okay? And to hear you all mention some of the similar things, and I'm just so excited because in a couple of years, I do hope to be on that panel. Just hearing your journeys. So my question is, on the road to where you are, was there ever a time frame that you gave yourself or a time limit to sit in a position before deciding that it's time to go on, it's time to move on?
Definitely. I love that you listen to her. She is one of my best friends, one of my bridesmaids in my wedding, actually. So, dear, dear friend. It's an amazing podcast for professional career advice, specifically for Black women. Yes, my goal is usually, my average is 3 years. And I'll tell you why. There was an article in Forbes several years back that says, if you stay in a role more than 3 years, you're likely limiting your earning potential. And I have found that it is easier for me and faster for me to earn more and to move up by leaving companies. That doesn't mean that I haven't stayed in places longer than 3 years, because I have. And I've been in places shorter than 3 years. But the way I evaluate it is I go in with saying, okay, it'll probably be about 3 years, but I'll know if I should stay or leave if, am I no longer learning? Do I not feel like I'm growing? Or do I not see any additional potential in this role? If I start saying, no to those, okay, it's time to leave, even if it's before 3 years. But if I can still say, no, I'm still learning, there's still stuff for me to get out of this role, I think I need to stay a little longer. So that's how I typically evaluate it.
Thanks, Tia.
Good morning, my name is Janae McKenzie, and I'm a first-year MBA candidate concentrating in marketing. And my question is actually for you, Tia, as well. Listening to your story is so inspiring for me. I, similar to you, started undergrad on a pre-med track, and after graduating decided to pivot to business, and so now pursuing marketing. And this summer I'll be interning with Apple in events marketing, and prior to this opportunity, I never considered tech as a part of my marketing career. And so my question is maybe 1 or 2 ways that you feel tech has influenced your marketing career compared to consumer products.
Interesting question. Tech is very, very different than my career in consumer marketing. And I will say I'm grateful that I was in consumer and consumer products first because it gave me a really good foundation. The thing with tech is it's very underdeveloped in terms of brand. So the exciting thing is I get to build. Right? Like Square doesn't have a very clear brand identity. The brand has existed since 2009 compared to brands that I worked on that have been around for 100 years and 150 years, right? So there's only so much you can do with that. So it's cool to work on younger brands, and that's where you can really leave your thumbprint, I like to say. And so that's going to be a really, really awesome opportunity for you. Connect with me after. I want to connect with you, someone at Apple. So since you're going there for your internship, it's always good to know someone. But yeah, I think tech is really going to help drive innovation in marketing in a way that consumer product, it's a machine. Because they've been doing it for 100+ years in many cases, they're not always as innovative. There are exceptions for sure, but that's the standard case. There's a way we do things and that's it. Versus tech, it's a little bit of the Wild West. It's like, let's figure out what we can do here, to really change the shape of this game. So that's kind of my takeaway. Again, I've only been in tech for 10 months, and I spent 15 years in consumer.
Good afternoon. My name is I'm also a student here at Atlanta University, MBA student in finance. Using your voice as it relates to negotiating your salary and your wage. What can you guys speak about, well, I struggle with using my voice in the workplace and kind of balancing that with falling into those negative stereotypes that we as Black women can sometimes be abrasive or too much. So what can you guys say about kind of balancing using your voice and advocating for yourself and not falling into that stereotype?
That is a very good question, and it is definitely a challenge, and I'm so glad you brought that up for African American women. Couple things. Take a pause. When you're in a heightened situation or a situation with conflict, take a pause before you respond. We were just talking about being on Zoom calls and checking your face. I'm very expressive with my face. Part of what I've seen over the past few years with racial inequities being a part of the forefront, a part of the conversation, is having the ability to create a safe space and have conversations to break down those stereotypes. And so whenever and however you can be a part of those discussions to educate people in the differences in culture, our octaves, the way that we speak, our body language may come across aggressively, but it's not necessarily. And so it is unfortunate that we have to kind of check ourselves and control ourselves in conversations and not come across, as you said, as abrasive. Hopefully things will evolve. Again, be part of the solution, not just, someone on the sideline saying this is unfair. Until that happens, you do have to take a step back and make sure that the way that you're presenting yourself and portraying yourself is not coming across in a manner that is going to put you in a bad position. Again, you've heard the conversations about mentors and things like that. Make sure that this is where having that African American female mentor comes into play, where you can let me pause, let me go talk to Tia, can we close the door? This is the situation. I paused before I answered. How should I move forward? Have someone that you can bounce those conversations and those ideas off of before you respond. And there are people who are going to put those microaggressions out there. They are real. And who are going to try to egg you on. That is real as well. Don't fall into that trap. There's no 100% guaranteed answer. Unfortunately, we still all deal with it today, but you do have to, you can only control yourself, and you have to keep that in mind at all times.
Great question. So we really only have time for one, maybe two quick ones.
Good morning. My name is Jacinta Osborne. I'm an undergrad senior now. So my question is, how do we appropriately market ourselves to get into the business that we desire? And do you advise us to settle in an industry just to, get our feet wet and to learn? Or do you advise us to really try to get into the industry that we desire?
If I reflect back on my career, I would advise you to put all your energy and effort around getting in the industry that you desire. At this point, start in internships. If you're able, even free internships, so that you can get a taste of it, get some experience. You want to have experience or try it out so that you can be sure that this is the industry that you really want to get in. That's very valuable because your energy is priceless, right? And you want to make sure that you're investing in your dream based on knowledge that is something that you do desire. But then second, if you try it out and don't like it, then you have time to pivot. So that's why I would say at this stage of your career, your journey, go ahead and invest in whatever it is you dream most about. And if it doesn't happen, then you can make a decision to try a new industry for a while. And I'm sure that will be fine too. That would be the other reflection. Even if you go in a different direction, that will be fine because you'll take the skills that you learned and then apply them to pursuing something that's more in line with your dreams. There is no wasted time, in my opinion.
Amen.
Everything is a learning experience.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, last question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Navardo Butler. I'm a business major with a concentration of marketing. First, I would like to thank you guys for being here and sharing these gems with us. My question is, what advice would you give your 19, 20-year-old self?
I have to say this. I would have told myself to have more fun, if I'm being honest. Right, because y'all have heard me sit up here. I did. I planned out my life at 12, and I knew I was going to grad. Like, I knew all these things, and so I was very serious. And there were things I wish I had done when I was in college that I didn't do. Right, I wish I had traveled abroad. Right, I got to do that later in my life, and but like there were things I wish I'd been a bit more present, as opposed to always thinking about my future. Now that's to say, don't not think about the future and plan for your, but be present and enjoy where you are. And that's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give to myself looking back, because she was so focused on this and she didn't have time for anything else, and I wish I had.
That's a great way to end this event, just to be present and being where we are. Thank you so much. Let's give them one more round of applause. So we're going to invite Dean Udoka up to the front to give our last remarks. Give it up for the Dean.
How about these powerful ladies up here? This is, ladies and gentlemen, very exciting. It's a great day. It's a great way to end or wrap up this Women's History Month. Nothing better than to have the power on this platform. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Camilla, for an awesome job of coordinating the event and moderating. I want to take these final moments to thank first Dr. Jester George and the CAU MBA graduate program for making today's Forward Forum the success that it is. Thank you so much. I especially want to thank our moderator, Dr. Sadler, and our panelist, Tia Cummings Hopkins. Let's see, we have Melanie Walker, and we have Cheryl Lester. My goodness, I am amazed just at the power up here on the stage. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Job well done. And to my student, Mallory King, for an awesome job of introducing our panelists. I'm so proud of the job you did up here. For this period, this month, for the men in the audience, you really have to pause and recognize the ladies in our lives and around us this Women's History Month. I think Margaret Thatcher, I will paraphrase, said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And that remains the case, because it's been possible to get this done today because I've been fortunate to be surrounded by some awesome women who pull all this together. I have Camilla Cole out here. I have Cynthia Cook. Ms. Cook should be around here somewhere. I have Alice Kaysen. I saw Ms. Kaysen a little while ago. Ms. Tina Lester. I have, of course, Dr. Cheryl Lester George is here. Dr. Crystal Hudson. Awesome women that I surround myself with. And that's why we can have days like today. So I am so proud to be here with you on this occasion. Thank you, ladies,
and
so
Ms.
much.
Denson, who's standing at
And
the
Ms.
door.
Denson, yes, Ms. Denson, looking out in the audience. Yes, thank you so much. All year long, we are celebrating our 75th anniversary. In an earlier presentation, you heard about the 75th anniversary of the founding of what was Atlanta University Graduate School of Business. The school has been, as part of this anniversary, presenting activities and events like this Forward Forum. And the Forward Forum and this anniversary is intended to honor our past, elevate our present, and envision our future. In this year of reflecting forward, and you'll see in the themes around us, we talk about reflecting forward. We have to reflect on the history, the phenomenal history of this institution and this school, and reflect forward, to look forward, to be forward-looking as we chart our path to the future. It has become a tradition that we, at the end of each event, pin our guests with our commemorative 75th anniversary pin. And I will do that shortly. This pin is a very small token of our appreciation, and it represents our hope that you will continue to engage with this school now and in the future. I thank you so much for being here, and thank to all of you in the audience for taking the time to be here this morning. I hope you learned as much as I did. I took so much notes. If I were to go through my notes, we will be here for the next hour. I will use this, I will attribute it to you once, and after that it's mine. So thank you so much for being here, and everyone have a great day and enjoy the rest of this program. Please take some time, not sure how much time you have to interact and ask more questions before we are done. Now we will pin each person.
Thank you, Dean Udoka. Let's give our panelists another round of applause. So we appreciate all of our participants today. A big special thank you to everybody for participating in our Forward Forum. I did want to acknowledge that we also have an all-female CAU-TV film crew today. So let's give them a round of applause too. So before we let you go, I just have two announcements. The first one is that our next Forward Forum is going to be held April 12th here on campus. The second announcement is that we do have lunch for you. So before you leave, make sure you grab a box lunch on your way out. If you would like to stick around, we would love our panelists to hang out for a couple of minutes if they're able to. And we just really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.